Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on to this little video. It's a reflection on the Gospel for this coming Sunday, the 25th Sunday of Year A, and it's Jesus' parable of the labourers in the vineyard. Peace of Christ be with you, wherever you are, however life is for you, with you right now. God's peace, God's compassion is right there alongside you, and may you know that. So, this parable of the labourers in the vineyard, one of those stories people wish Jesus had never told. I love it, and I hope I can convey something of that in this little video. It's not fair. A shout rings out from every playground in the country. It's a deep sense of fairness that's hardwired into us when people are treated unfairly, like, because of their skin, color of their skin, or because they're female, or because they're born into a poorer community. We're rightly not okay with that. It's not fair when 1% of the world's richest people own over 50% of the world's wealth. We're rightly not okay with that unfairness. But what about unfairness that comes not from injustice or a discrimination or prejudice, but what about unfairness that comes from love? Unfairness that comes from compassion. Now, in the UK, we all use the NHS, and that's a system that treats people unfairly, but in an amazingly good way. Like, if you've paid taxes all your life, like, and never missed any months where you didn't pay tax, you will be treated with the same level of skill and the same level of care as if you had been a person who was very sick and disabled all their life and have not been able to pay any taxes. The NHS does not care about your economic worthiness. It just cares about you, and it wants to treat you. Whether you're a little child who's not contributed anything, or whether you're somebody who's addicted to drugs and screwed up their life, the NHS will try to treat you, and that care and that love has nothing to do with your worthiness or lack of it. So that's an unfairness that comes from love. That's an unfairness that comes from compassion. And if you want to know one of the animating principles behind that NHS system, that in a fair society, people get what they need irrespective of whether they're worthy or not to receive it. It's in the gospel and in gospel stories like this parable of the labourers in the vineyard. So this is a story that's strange, and it's weird, and it pushes all those unfair points, because as the great Rob Bell points out, we all love fairness until we don't. The speed limit. Everyone should stick to the speed limit, but I was just going 72 miles an hour. That parking tickets are a good thing. It stops the cities and towns being jammed up. Can you just give me a break this time? People rage about people on benefits, on welfare all the time. Many of those, tax avoiding. We love fairness, and until we don't. Anyway, this is a story that's really pushing people's ideas about fairness. Jesus says, the kingdom of God, also known as the kingdom of heaven, also known as the kingdom of love. The kingdom of love, says Jesus, can be compared to a landowner going out to hire workers at the break of day for his vineyard. He finds workers waiting to be hired, and he agrees at a fair price with them, a denarius for a day's work. That's a good TUC, Citizens UK approved living wage. Great. Okay, we're good to go. But then a few hours later, the landowner goes back to this marketplace where people kind of stand about to be hired. He comes back a few hours later and he sees some more workers there. And he says, has no one offered you a job? Well, come and work with me for a fair wage. That's what it says, that word again. I'll pay you a fair wage. Come and work with me. And then the landowner goes back at midday, and he goes again in the afternoon and sees more people whom no one has hired. Why has no one hired them? Probably because they were older or weaker or had disabilities, and the healthy and the strong always get picked first. But the landowner says, I want you. Will you come? And so they do. And now this is where the story gets really weird. The landowner goes out at the last hour of the working day. At 5 o'clock, it says, who is still hanging around at the 11th hour at 5 o'clock waiting to be hired? The truly hopeless and the truly desperate. That's who. Why has no one hired you, says the landowner. Because no one wants us, they say. Who wants someone like me? What chance do I have? Who's going to hire me? Well, I want you, says the landowner. Come and work with me. And now the craziness of the story reaches its crescendo. When it comes to being paid, the landowner pays everyone the same. And he actually pays the 5 o'clockers first and works backwards. 1 denarius for the people who worked all through the day, and for the people who worked just the last 10 minutes. That's insane. What employer behaves like that? None. No one does. That's not how capitalism works. But that's how the kingdom of love works. That's how the economy of grace works. And of course, it's not fair. It goes beyond fairness. People who worked all day complain. But the landowner says, I paid you the fair wage we agreed. Why are you envious? Because I am generous. We've got this idea in our head that everything is a finite resource. Is everything a finite resource? Here's the thing. What we truly most need, what our hearts and our souls truly most need, is limitless. It's not a finite resource. Our relationship with God is not a boss-worker contract. It's not a you do this, I'll do that transaction. So when Jesus is saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner, in the sense that it's nothing like a landowner. It's a joke. And the whole story is one mad expression of the joke, the idea that God's the landowner is going to give us wages. God's in on the joke. And here's the joke. Here's the gospel. There's nothing you could do to make God love you more. There's nothing you could do to make God love you less. How irresponsible is that? The people who get up early, who've got their act together and are hired at dawn, are given the same as the broken, the failed, and the unwanted 5 o'clockers, who have no time to do hardly anything. And what same do they all get? Love. The wonder, the delight is that you do not have to earn God's love. You don't have to pass a test or a performance review or clocking enough hours to be loved. And actually, so long as you think that, it will poison everything. What do you have to do to be loved by God? Nothing. Nothing. You just have to breathe. You just are loved, and that's not going to change. And the strange thing is, the people who really get this, who are in on the cosmic delight and joke and wonder of it all, that we're not trying to earn wages from God. There's nothing we could do to make him love us more. There's nothing we could do to make him love us less. And anything we do for God, it's not trying to earn anything, because he's already given us and wants to give us everything. Don't you get this, God? Says God, what do I have to do? Like die on a cross or something? The people who kind of get this stuff, the saints, they're the people who spread healing and joy and wonder and delight to thousands. The wonderful saint of God, Henry Nouwen, once heard of some children who retold the parable of the labourers in the vineyard, and they told it like this. They said, it was like this: one time all us kids helped our dad out in the orchard picking apples. What a great thing to do. Spent the whole day with our dad. It's fantastic. Us older kids could work a bit longer than the younger kids and get more done, and our littlest brother was only a baby and he didn't do very much picking at all. In fact, he just crawled around and put some dirt and worms into his mouth. But he did his job. We're not quite sure what the job was, but he did it. And at the end of the day, Dad paid us all the same, and he paid our littlest brother first, and we thought that was just fantastic.